Hello everyone, welcome back to Angela's Craft Room. Today I've got this really fun stamp card for you. It's from the Bird Banter stamp set, and I'm just using the balloons today, but I'm just going to show you how I mask so you can see how some balloons are sitting behind others, and then we're going to colour them in with the Stampin' Up blends. Okay, so this is the stamp set that I used, is Bird Banter, and I just used the balloon and the party hats. So we'll just get started and I'll just see what I'm going to use as we go along. So I'm just going to grab a piece of grid paper. Now I will be using my Eclipse masking tape, which I absolutely love. So I just cut it off in whatever widths I want, and you'll see how I use that as we go along. I got mine off eBay. It does come from America. I'm in Australia, so if you're in America you would get it so easy, but yeah, it lasts forever. So I'm going to use a piece of Whisper White, which is 5 inches by 3 5/8 of an inch. This is my top panel that I'm using, but it's the one that we're going to do all of the work on. So I'm just lining it up on my grid squares. Okay, so I've already cut, and you just cut them the widths whatever you want. I'm just mainly masking off the top about two grid lines or grid squares. Doesn't matter how, it doesn't really matter how big your grid squares are. And then I'm going to use my sponge brayer and my soft sky, and I'm just going to mask, just lay down some soft sky. I don't want it to be really dark because I'm going to put the balloons on top of here. Funny thing, when you're using the soft brayer, you don't think there's that much ink going down, but there is. Just make sure you go straight across, don't go dot dot dot, just go straight across. So that's so I just need to get a bit more down in the spots where it's a bit blotchy, but it won't really matter because we're going to put the stamp, the balloons on top, but I do want to get a bit of an even and I'm doing this super fast, which I normally wouldn't. I would normally take my time doing this so I get a nice even So there's just a bit across the middle there that is missing some soft sky. So, and you can do more than one colour, and you can take a little peeky. Just put a little bit more up the top there. So I think that'll do. So I'm just going to pop that over there. Then we're going to take that off so you can see the mask where we've done that. So then I'm going to grab my Misty tool and leave the foam in this time because it is a photopolymer stamp. So I'm just going to put a little happy birthday greeting down here. The photopolymers seem to really stick. And then up here I'm going to put some hearts. So I'm going to do that first before we start stamping the balloons. So just ink that up. Just depending how much boldness you want. Like that. So that's the happy birthday done. Then I'm going to put it's really hard sometimes to get these down a second time because they're very sticky because it's a new stamp set, but that's okay. So we just want one more, want 3 hearts going across there. So just holding them with the tweezers rather than my hands, my fingers seem to work a lot better. So that's the heart. The 3 hearts done. Now we want to do the balloons. So I'll just grab the balloon out. Now this is something we can't rush, is stamping the balloons. We want to get that right. So just eyeballing it, I'm just going to put the first balloon down there, just put that one. Now I'm just going to stamp my first balloon. And you don't want, when you're, how I put the soft sky down before, when we use the masking tape, you don't want to use a lot of that, because I'm going to be colouring them in with the Stampin' Up blends. So I just re-stamp that. And before we go any further, what we have to do is make a mask. So I've just taken some Eclipse masking tape, and I'm just going to grab some scissors, and to make our mask we're just going to quickly, not be too fussy about it. Then just cut round your balloon. And it's good if you can just leave a little bit of white, so you know you're going to cover your full balloon, because this is going to go over the stamped image rather. So we want the whole stamp image covered. So I'm not really worried too much about the tail. Okay, so then we're going to take that mask and just put it right over the balloon like that. And then we're going to stamp one. Now when I stamp this one, I'm just going to have it a little bit higher than that one. Get my tweezers so it'll, like that. And that magnet's just catching. So we're just going to stamp that memento up with memento ink. You need to use your memento ink when you're using this, when you're going to colour with the stamping blends. So then what I'm going to do is exactly the other side, and I'm going to go up a little bit higher. So we've still got that mask on the middle balloon. You could try doing it with sticky notes, but this is just so much easier using the Eclipse masking tape. Okay, so then we're going to peel that Eclipse masking tape off, and we're going to put it on this end balloon. And now I'm going to have this one, because the ideal, you don't want them perfectly straight, like you want them, some of the balloons to be lower and higher than the others. Now I'm going to bring this one over. Then you're going to take that masking tape off again and pop it on this end. And I'm just going to bring that down lower. Stamp it right there. So you can see how the masking works. It's putting balloons behind other balloons and in front of other ones. And it's quite a good effect. So this time I need it just on that end. Not quite covering it, so we want to make sure that it is covering it. As I said, it's not so much the string, it's the balloon. So we've only just got one more. We're stamping now on this end, and then we've just got one more to do on the other one. It's just something that can't be rushed, and I really wanted to show you how I did this technique. And you can use this technique for just about anything. So then we just want to cover this one with masking tape. And that's something I've learnt today by just using my tweezers. I'm always smudging the images, but by using the tweezers it just seems to hold the photopolymer a little bit. When you're trying to lift it up with your fingers, it seems to just move all the time, and that makes you have a blurred image. So this is the last one down there, like that. And we just remove that mask, and you can see how the balloons are all behind each other. So what we're going to do then is just grab accidentally tore as I grabbed it, but that's all good. But you can see how the soft sky background really does a really nice effect. So I'm just going to grab some Stampin' Up blends, and we're going to colour in the balloons. So I'm going to use the brush end, and I'm going to start in the middle one. And this is just the light navy blue. So mainly I just want to get most of the colour down. Just have to be more careful when I get to the edges. Because we don't want to go outside the edges if we can help it. Now, I'm not going to do a lot of blending because it's just going to take too much time, but normally I would take the darker colour and I would go round there, just on one side of the balloon, and make it quite thick. Like that. And then you would just take and just do little circles, or you can just brush it out like that, just until you can see that it has blended. Just don't want to go over that little white spot there. Okay, so then we're going to pop that away. And now I'm going to get a little bit of the pumpkin pie, and I'm going to do the balloon next to it. Actually, I might do this one. Just depending on what blends you've got, just work out. I like, when I'm doing this balloon card, I like to have 3 colours. I try not to have 2 balloons the same colour next to each other, and that's why it's important to, when you're stamping your balloons, start from the middle of your card when you stamp your first balloon, like how I stamped the middle one first, and then I worked out, and I was working out as I was going where I wanted my balloons to be. So then I would do this one over here, pumpkin pie as well. So even though this is a really simple card, there is a lot of technique to it. Like that, and then we'll just get the dark pumpkin pie, and because this balloon goes underneath the other one, I would just lay down some of the dark and quite a thick amount. and then bring in my light and just brush that out until you don't have a line there. So you don't want to be able to see the line of the dark. You just got to keep blending it out until that line disappears. So it's sort of a bit like magic. You can actually see it working. And then we'll just do this one, which will go underneath because this balloon goes underneath the one next to it. And then we'll just do little circles till that is blended out. So it's just right on the edge, like where the thickness of the darker colour. It's just on the edge that you really need to blend it out. But it's just a personal thing until you're happy with it. I just like to take the light and just do a really rough fill-in sort of thing. I can just see that there's a bit of a line there, so I'm just blending it out. So it's really important to put your lids back on so that the alcohol ink doesn't dry out. So then I'm going to use some old olive. So you can see how easy it is to colour with the stamping blends. Let's go around those. So trying not to go outside those lines. And then we'll do this one here in old olive. So the more you use them, the stamping blends, you get to know how you want to colour. Just remember to use the Memento ink though, because otherwise they will bleed. And I'm using Whisper White. You can use Whisper White. I've used them on shimmery white and watercolour paper. They're very vibrant on watercolour paper. So then I would just, because this one goes under there a little bit, I'll just do a little mark there. just blend that out a little bit. It just gives you that darkness where the balloon goes underneath. Just tidy that up down there, and then the same on this side where it goes underneath. I'm using the darker one, making this one a lot thicker. Like that. And then what I meant was how wide I've done it there. You just need to blend this out. You don't go all over that. You just do this edge until that's blended out. You can do strokes, you can do circles, just whatever suits, works for you. So we'll just lightly I could just see that needed blending out a bit more. So just pop the covers back on there, and we've just got 2 more balloons to do, which we will do in Night of Navy. And it shouldn't take too long, it's only half balloons. So you can see how the balloons are curved on, like flicking on a curved motion, just to fill that in. And I won't worry about blending these last 2. Night of Navy is quite a dark colour, so just depends how big your image is, whether you can get away with, if you don't want to blend. Because in previous videos I've shown you, I've used these before, and I've been colouring little images, and you just can't really blend the little images. If you've got a large flower, that's where you would do a lot of blending. So just round the top, like that. And I can just see that the ink's a bit uneven, so I'm just going, and you can see how I'm doing a curve motion because the balloon is curved. Like that. And then for the little hearts, we might just be brave and grab a bit of cherry cobbler, but I'm just using the light one, and I'm just going to use the nib. Why I said brave is because it's a very rich colour, and you've got to be careful when you're using it, because especially on little images like this, because you don't want to go outside the lines. So you wouldn't use the brush end on images this small, because I'm hardly touching it. I hope my head's not in the way. So there. So it's quite an effective technique. Like, I would fiddle with that a lot more, but we'll just put that onto a card. So I'm just going to use cherry cobbler. So it's 11 inches long by 4 1/8 of an inch wide, and then scored at 5.5 inches. And then I'm going to put a mat of basic black on top, which measures 5 1/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches. And I'm just going to use my Tombow. Now, in the Bird Banter stamp set, it's got a lot of lovely birds in there that are perfect for using the Stampin' Billions as well. And you don't really need to blend or with them, because once again they're a small image. So I'm just going to eyeball that as straight as I can before letting go, and press that down. And then I'm just going to put the one that with the top panel that we stamped and coloured. So you can see, like with the stamp set, you don't have to use, like, you can just pick out one image and use it like the balloons. I mean, we did use the hearts though as well. So that was the good thing of me using the Tombow, because I was able to adjust that panel to how I wanted it. And then, as I told you the other day, I've started using just normal photocopy paper to go in my card. So I would stamp that and then pop that in there, which I won't waste your time doing at the moment. And then one of the birds that you could use is the little cockatoo. If you wanted to add something else, you could pop him on there, and then your card would be finished. So this is, we have these in our backyard in Australia. They're an Australian cockatoo, and they're normally yellow and white. They're basically white all over, but then the crest here is yellow, and they do have a little bit of yellow on their tail and their wing. So to colour that, because it's basically white and you just want to add some colour, I would just take the light, because I know what colour they are. I'm just putting it on the tips, and then just a little bit on the wing and a little bit on the tail. And then I would grab my Wink of Stella, and that's another thing, you can blend it out with the Wink of Stella. Just add a bit of Wink of Stella on the wings. Because the bird in real life is naturally white, it makes it a bit hard. I mean, if you're not worried about what colour the bird really is, well, you can just colour it whatever colour. Now this is the colour lifter alcohol marker that you get, and the idea of this one is to, if you go outside the lines, is to push the colour back inside the lines, but you can also use it to lighten the colour, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm lightening the colour. I'm just putting a really little touch of yellow down here. And their beaks are black, but I most probably would just put maybe smoky slate or crumb cake or something like that, just to add some colour. Now you can see that that's just bled out a little bit, so I'm just pushing that colour back inside the lines. That's what this marker is really developed for. Now I'm going from the bottom of his crest and just lightening that colour up towards the top part. And if you're googling the colours, just be careful, because the black cockatoo, also native to Australia will come up as well. And I'm just going to grab the smoky slate, and I'm just going to do his beak. I'm not going to it's normally black, but that's about as close as you're going to get. And then I'm just going to grab a dimensional, and I would just position him just wherever you want, really. So that's our card for today, using the Bird Banter stamp set. So this was the first one I did. That's the first one, using the party hats and the balloons. And this is the one we've done today, using the cockatoo and soft sky in the background with the hearts at the top. So I hope you'll give those techniques a try. Thank you for joining me today, and please subscribe to my channel. And until next time, happy crafting!